Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast as we move on here, and we're going to be diving into the series for the Boston Red Sox, where they just took 2 out of 3 against the Oakland Athletics and are further increasing their chances of being in a playoff position when this is all said and done. So we're going to be running through the 3-game series and talking about where they stand overall here. So game 1, the Red Sox won 12-9. They were really powered by an 8-run second inning that was able to pretty much, carry them the length of the way here. We saw all 9 starters end up scoring a run in this game. I think that all happened in the second inning as well. So, really impressive there. We saw Wilyer Abreu, who was phenomenal this series as a whole, break out of an 0-for-16 slump with a home run in that second inning that seemed to, set it off on the right tone. And, in that same inning, like I mentioned, it was an avalanche of Red Sox offense as it was Abreu. And then immediately after, we got a Dom Smith home run on the first pitch. So, the Sox were really able to put it on there. They ended up giving Oakland's pitcher, Estes, I'll double check the pronunciation on that, but gave him Joey Estes, gave him the shortest start of his career, just 1 2/3 innings, and he was out of there pretty quick. But on the other end for the Red Sox, it was a weird start for Brayan, who of course the Red Sox gave the massive contract extension to last offseason. We're hoping that he was going to emerge as their ace, and that just has not been the case so far this season. And like I mentioned, it wasn't a bad start necessarily for Bello, but it was definitely a strange one and felt like it could have been feeling a lot better. So he had a career high 11 strikeouts, which is something to, kind of feel good about. Now, it's not exactly Bello's MO, considering the fact that he's a little bit more of a contact pitcher. And, the punch-outs are cool. You're never going to complain about those, but you're also talking about the Oakland Athletics, where they strike out outside of the Mariners more than anybody in the MLB. But the first 10 outs were all recorded on Bello strikeouts. But during that same stretch there, in both the first and second inning, we saw a significant amount of traffic on the bases, where in this game, again, 5 1/3 inning, 9 hits, 2 walks, and ended up allowing 5 earned runs. Now, I think that ultimately, if you go to that 6th inning where it was Lawrence Butler who ended up just mashing a changeup that Bello left a little bit too much over the plate, you take away that one pitch and, Bello gets out of that situation clean, we're looking at this start a lot differently. But part of the issue for Bello is that we are seeing him just too consistently allowing the long ball, and that some of the contact is sort of what he does. He is a pitcher that, since he's come up into the majors, induces a lot of ground balls. But when that contact is loud, it's really loud. Butler hit this thing, I think the official distance was 457 feet. And, again, this is a situation where at this point, Bello, I was having this debate with some friends as to if the Red Sox weren't winning by as much as they were, would Bello have even still been in the game? Cora and this pitching staff, the way that they haven't really gotten a ton of quality starts in the past week or so, could definitely have leaned on him, and probably for that reason could have seen him go out a little bit longer. But at that point, Bello's pitch count was running pretty high up, and again, that Butler pitch that Butler home run just ultimately ended his game, where that was a 3-run home run, and the A's were able to keep it a little bit closer. Bello has just been in this weird stretch as of late where, he had a pretty good start against the Marlins, and you feel like that was maybe something to build off of. Granted, it's the Marlins, and that offense has been very bad this year. So I don't really know where you stand on the evaluation of Bello up to this point. But, when you get that type of production from your offense, it obviously makes things a lot easier for them. Game 2 went to the Athletics, where they won 5-2. The Red Sox offense just did not have that same juice. We've seen them have their moments struggling against left-handed pitching. It hasn't been quite as drastic of a drop-off as I thought from an eye test perspective, but across the board they are a top 10 offense in the league, but against left-handed pitching those numbers become a lot more pedestrian, and JP Sears kind of carved them up in this game. 5 2/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, and just 1 earned run that came on a Rob Refsnyder solo shot in the 6th inning. So really just one bad pitch that got away from him. He did load the bases in the 1st inning, but after he got out of that, it was pretty much smooth sailing for him. When Refsnyder went yard, Sears at that point was over the 100 pitch mark. He threw a career high 114 pitches, so he was very impressive in my opinion in this game. He also got another big performance from Lawrence Butler, who is somebody A's fans are probably feeling very good about after this series where, he had the 3-run shot in game 1. In this game, 4 plate appearances, 3 at-bats, 2 hits, a walk, and 2 RBIs. So, he was very productive once again. And this is another situation where you feel pretty weird about how to evaluate the start from the Boston pitcher. This time it was Nick Pivetta, 6 2/3 innings pitched. He allowed 6 hits. He struck out 10, but he allowed 4 earned runs. Another situation where, the strikeouts were dealing for him. At one point, it was around the 3rd, 4th inning. He struck out 8 straight batters, which was very impressive. But the bat out inning came in that 3rd where he got hit around a little bit. And then a couple extra runs, put in there in the 7th inning. Cora admitted that he probably left Pivetta in there a little bit too long. He ended up throwing 105 pitches. This is the 2nd time that he's thrown over 100 this season. In that 7th inning, it was Max Schumann who also had, from a bottom of the lineup guy, had himself a pretty nice series. Ended up scoring in this inning, plus he had the big throw from center field to hose down Jamie Westbrook at the plate on that Rafaela double later in this game. But Schumann and J.J. Bleday strung together a couple hits in the 7th that led to another earned run and ended Pivetta's night. In this game, though, as much as Pivetta, again, kind of hard to evaluate ultimately where to feel about this, the offense was just not enough. They had their chances. The 5th inning, like I mentioned, it was Westbrook being thrown out at home plate. That was after he reached off of an error. And Rafaela had a pretty nice series in this one as well, but weren't able to convert there. 7th inning, they loaded the bases, but Devers ended up grounding out. Last 2 games of this series weren't great for him, and ultimately just not enough production from the offense in this one. And then game 3, rubber match with the Athletics, definitely for where the Red Sox, who had won, I think it was 6 of 7 games at that point, not necessarily wanting to be in this type of a game against the Athletics, but ultimately it was kind of a no sweat one for them, where you could just feel that it was different from the 1st inning on, because just like game 2, they loaded the bases with 2 outs once again. Felt like maybe they weren't going to be able to capitalize, but this time around they did. Luis Medina just never really seemed to settle into this game. His control was a little bit all over the place. The Red Sox, with good plate discipline, were able to take advantage. Masataka Yoshida with a big game for himself in this one. He was able to come through for them. get the offense going with 3 runs in the first inning, and then from there on out, Massa did come back around with a home run later in the game, along with Wong and Abreu to put up the 7 in this game, and ultimately just close out the Athletics. Tanner Houck was very due for a big-time start. The All-Star that is going to be participating in the All-Star game for the first time in his career on Tuesday had been coming off of debatably his 2 worst starts of the season versus the Padres and the Yankees, and this time around he was excellent. 6 innings pitched, just 2 hits, a few walks in there as well, but 6 strikeouts, 0 earned runs. Outside of a 6th inning where he ran into some traffic and was able to get out of it, and Alex Cora really commended him for his ability to pull that one out. Thought that he was overall excellent, and the offense just bouncing back in this game, which was huge for them. But, ultimately for the Sox, they are coming into a really big weekend where they are going to be facing the Kansas City Royals, who are at this point, let me double check the number. I think it was 1.5 going into last night's game. Now, after yesterday, it is 1 game back. The Kansas City Royals are of the Red Sox for that final wild card spot. So definitely going to be an important one for the Sox internally. And then, across the division, the Baltimore Orioles and New York Yankees are facing off in a series. Both of them coming off of series losses. The Orioles just got swept by the Cubs and were outscored 21-2 in that series. The Yankees lost their series to the Tampa Bay Rays. So the Red Sox are in a weird position right now where, if things break their way, they could end up second in the American League East by the All-Star break. But if they, end up dropping this series to the Royals, if they get swept, they will be outside of the playoffs altogether. So a little bit of a volatile weekend ahead, and obviously the eyes are on the All-Star break, but the Red Sox don't really have the possibility to, take their foot off the gas just yet. But over this series, we saw manager Alex Cora surpass Bill Kerrigan for the 4th all-time spot in terms of wins by a Red Sox manager, and that does lead to further speculation about what is to come with the Red Sox and whether or not they have plans to bring back Cora moving forward. So we are going to be diving into that conversation next, but first we have to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.